Alex Pereira versus Jiri Prochazka this Saturday will give us fireworks and crown a new light heavyweight champion in the UFC. We have been without a champion since July after title holder Jamal Hill had to give up his belt due to injury. Both of these fighters are coming into this fight trying to win a championship and are both champions in their own right, with Jiri holding the belt before his injury last year. Pereira is a former middleweight champion after knocking off Israel Adesanya, and after he lost that belt, he decided to move up a weight class, and he is looking for his second weight class championship. This has all the makings of a fight of the year candidate, so let's get into it and how I expect this fight to go. First off, we have to talk about both of these fighters' recent form and how they got to this position. Jiri Prochazka is coming into this fight after not having stepped into the octagon in a year and a half. He was supposed to defend his belt last year against Glover Teixeira, but a shoulder injury left him unable to compete and he had to relinquish his title. Now, he's looking to get back what he felt like he never lost. The main question going into this fight for Jiri is how will that shoulder injury affect him? Even if it's fully recovered, you would have to imagine there would be some ring rust on a guy who hasn't competed in a year and a half, especially since Pereira has competed 4 times in that span. If we get a fully healthy and capable Jiri, then this fight should give us the power that we know from him. Out of his 29 MMA wins, 25 have come from knockout, but he still has the capability to look for that submission, which he used to win the belt originally against Glover in the 5th round of their championship battle. Now, for a guy that's been in the UFC since 2020 making his debut then, he's only had 3 fights, averaging 1 a year. It seemed like he was going to have more, but obviously that injury kind of stopped him from having the fights over the past year and a half, but now he's coming into this bout looking for his 4th UFC victory, considering he is undefeated in the UFC. And this is a guy, as I said before, his striking is impeccable. I mean, this guy has good defense too, but that striking is going to be tough for Pereira, especially a guy where we've seen him be vulnerable at some points. Obviously, Izzy knocked him out in their last contest, but Jiri does have that knockout ability as we've seen throughout all of his fights. His first 2 fights in the UFC, he won in the 2nd round by KO, so it was interesting to see him go against Glover and have to make him tap out in the 5th round. This is also a guy in Jiri where he throws and lands about 5.7 strikes per minute and he absorbs about 5.4 per minute. So he is going to throw pretty much as he's going to get hit, and his significant strike percentage is about 55%. So this guy is throwing good shots throughout the fight, and going up against a guy like Pereira, this should be a fight where I would expect this to be on the feet for most of it. Neither of these guys really average any takedowns, if any. Jiri with only 1 takedown successful in all of his fights up to this point. The main thing that I want to see from Jiri in this fight is to see him land those shots, get a lot of good flush shots on him, especially within the first couple rounds. And I want to see how he goes through the first few rounds, especially that 1st and the 2nd, because Pereira could easily go out there and target him and try to go fast and try to knock him out, and he wants to see where this ring rust is, what level of Jiri we're at. If he's fully capable of just going in there after this injury and being completely fine, then it's completely different fight, then I think it's completely even. But for now, we don't really know exactly what we're going to see, so I think these first few minutes in the 1st round are really going to tell us how this fight is going to go. Now on the opposite side, we have another guy who likes to throw a lot of shots in Alex Pereira, and this is a guy who in the UFC is now 5-1 with a championship win over Israel Adesanya. He lost that last fight against him. We'll see if there's potentially a trilogy. I doubt it at this point, just because Adesanya says he wants to take off until 2027. I don't know if that's actually going to happen, but if it does, then I think that we'll see Pereira continue to fight in this light heavyweight, especially if he goes out there, win or loss. If he can go out there and keep a contested fight, we could easily see him stay in this position, maybe go back out and get a championship fight. But the way that he fights, very similar to Jiri. Both of these guys are big stand-up fighters, and Pereira has 3 knockout victories to this point, including victories over Sean Strickland and Izzy, which we saw when he won the championship. He was knocked out against Izzy in that second fight, and in his last fight against Jan, and very interesting one, only 3 rounds, it went to decision, and Pereira, the judges decided that he did more damage when standing, even though Jan had a lot of control time. So an interesting development to look at, but I don't expect either of these guys to be rolling around on the ground, wrestling or grappling that much throughout this fight. This is a 5-round fight, so we may see something, but I really expect both of these guys to stand up and bang. And when we look at the stats, pretty similar between Pereira and Jiri when we're talking about those strikes per minute, kind of strikes absorbed, the standing time, the takedown averages, pretty all similar across the board. Even with the submission attempts, I don't see either one really going for it. Maybe we'll see Jiri go out there, maybe he's been training a little bit different after the injury, training for this fight, looking for a submission attempt. We really haven't seen Pereira in too much danger. That last fight against Jan, there was some instances, but he did end up getting out, and it'll be interesting to see if Jiri goes into this fight with the game plan of trying to go down and submit him, but I do expect most of this fight to be a stand and bang fight. I would be very surprised if both of these guys go the distance. Now, if you're looking for a bet for this fight, pretty much every single place has Pereira as the favorite overall, though it is very close. And if you want to bet for one of them to win by knockout, those odds pretty similar to win just with the money line odds, even though both of them are positive to win by KO. So a little bit different if you're looking for that. I don't expect either one of these guys to win by submission. I would be surprised, like I said earlier, if this one went to decision. And I do think that Pereira is going to come out with the win, only because I'm not sure what version of Jiri Prochazka we're going to see here. Like I said, if he's fully healthy, came back from that injury, really no ring rust, if he knocks it out in the first round, then he will be a very tough fighter for Pereira to go against. But if Pereira goes out there and tries to blitz him in the first round, maybe catches him with some shots, he could knock him out early. I think either of these guys could easily get knocked out early just because both of the guys on the opposite end have the power to do so. I do think Pereira is going to win this bout, but I do think it's going to be very close. If we see Jiri be completely fine in those first couple rounds with really no ring rust, then I could see him getting the win, but my official prediction for this fight, Alex Pereira to win this fight by knockout. I don't see this one going the distance. I just think both of these guys have too strong of hands and legs too. I expect Pereira to go for the legs as well. He should be able to get those leg and strikes in. I do think he's going to come out with the victory here against Jiri, but it should be a very good close fight in the end. And for the Jon Jones fight getting canceled, I do think this is a very good replacement in the main event, and I think honestly a more competitive fight than we would have seen from Jon Jones and Stipe at the time. Let me know down below, guys, who you think is going to win this fight. Like I said, I think it's going to be a very close fight. I could see an argument either way. Do you think Jiri's going to go out there and be fine through that injury, or do you think it is going to bother him? Pereira could go out there and blitz him in the first couple rounds. Let me know down below what your prediction is for this fight, and I'll see you in the next one.